In the heart of Houston, beneath the shadow of high-rise towers, lies a story built by hand and almost buried by time. They called it Freedmen's Town, a neighborhood born from freedom itself, a place where the newly emancipated turned promise into pavement, faith into foundation, and community into a declaration. We are free, and we will stay free. Freedom wasn't a finish line, it was the beginning. And for the newly freed, that beginning came with questions. Where do we go? Who will protect us? How do we build something that lasts? In Houston's 4th Ward, the answer was land. Not gifted, not granted, but earned. Freedmen bought it brick by brick, dollar by dollar, often working the very jobs that once enslaved them. They laid down roots, not just homes, but institutions, schools, lodges, and businesses. Each one a declaration. We are not visitors in freedom. We are architects of it. Rutherford Yates printed textbooks and newspapers that taught black children to read and black families to dream. Education wasn't just survival, it was a strategy. Churches like Bethel and Antioch weren't just places of worship, they were command centers for dignity, where sermons met strategy and faith met freedom.
Well, Antioch in its earliest conception has always been, and as a matter of fact, always be, a church of the people, of the community, and of the city. Being founded in 1866 by ex-slaves who came together looking for a place to worship, looking for a place to serve the Lord, to pull community resources together back in those times. Antioch served as a nucleus and a hub, if you will, of not only of a place of worship, but a place of education, a place of service, a place of community. For me, it's not only the history of Antioch, but it's the history of Freedmen's Town that has allowed this church to survive as long as it has.
And then came the bricks, handmade by the freedmen. From clay, sweat, and hope, they paved the street of Freedmen's Town, not just to walk on, but to be remembered by. Each brick was a signature, a message to the future. We were here, we mattered, we built this. But time has a way of forgetting what it didn't value. And as Houston grew, Freedmen's Town shrank, not in spirit, but in space. Before we talk about what was lost, we must honor what was built. Because the promise of freedom wasn't just survival, it was a legacy. Freedmen's Town wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. By the early 1900s, it had everything a community needed. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, grocers, shoemakers, and builders. All black, all local, and all invested. This was a place where your barber knew your grandfather, where your teacher lived down the street, where the corner store gave credit when times were tight because they knew your name. Education was sacred. Schools like Gregory and Ryan trained generations of black youth, not just in reading and math, but in consideration, purpose, and possibility. Even when denied access to Houston's public libraries, Freedmen's Town built its own. The colored Carnegie Library stood as a monument to self-determination, a place where black minds could grow uninterrupted. And then there was the music. Freedmen's Town pulsed with rhythm, blues, gospel, and jazz echoing from porches and dance halls. It was a soundtrack of resilience. Leaders like Reverend Jack Yates, educator Christia Adair, and activist John Henry Jack Yates Jr. didn't just preach or teach, they organized. They fought for voting rights, fair housing, and dignity in the face of Jim Crow. Freedmen's Town was more than a neighborhood. It was a blueprint, a living example of what black freedom could look like when left to flourish. But even as it thrived, the outside world watched, and what it saw was land, location, and legacy, which would soon be a target. Before the bulldozers came, before the zoning maps changed, Freedmen's Town stood tall, a city within a city, built by the free for the future. By the 1920s, Freedmen's Town was home to more than 5,000 residents. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, and tradesmen walked these streets with their heads held high. There were cafes where music floated into the night, and Sunday dinners where elders reminded children how far they'd come. Just a few blocks away, in 1872, 4 black ministers purchased 10 acres of land for the city's first public space to Negro Americans. They called it Emancipation Park. For decades, it was the heart of Juneteenth celebrations, a living symbol that freedom, once declared, still had to be protected. From the church to the park, from the school to the shop, Freedmen's Town stood as a testament to what freedom could build and what segregation black homes. Black teachers taught black children. Black entrepreneurs built wealth, not just for themselves, but for the block. But while Freedmen's Town thrived, the city of Houston had infrastructure repairs were delayed, and maps started to appear, not of preservation, but of removal. Not because of crime, not because of poverty, but because it was black. City services slowed, drainage systems were told to wait, or even worse, told to move. Still, the community held on, because these weren't just homes. They were legacies, passed down, protected, and lived in. But behind closed doors, the picture was already being drawn. And what came, it was removal. Freedom's victories are often fragile. By the 1950s and 60s, the same city that once ignored Freedmen's Town began to covet its land. Federal dollars flowed in under the banner of urban renewal. But for black communities, it was anything but. Eminent domain gave the city power to seize homes, not for crime, not for blight, but for convenience. Freeways were not laid around Freedmen's Town, they were laid through Freedmen's Town. I-45 and Allen Parkway carved up the neighborhood like a grid, slicing through history with concrete. Entire blocks vanished, churches were relocated, businesses shuttered, and families scattered about. Some given pennies for their homes, others given nothing at all. They called it renewal, but for the people who lived there, it was removal. The second disposition, but this time not by chains, it was by policy. Today, less than a quarter of Freedmen's Town remains intact. Developers call it progress. Descendants call it loss. But the fight isn't over. Grassroots organizers, historians, and descendants have pushed back, demanding the city honor what it has tried to erase. Because these bricks aren't just artifacts, they're evidence. Evidence of what was built. Evidence of what was taken. Evidence of what still remains. Urban renewal didn't just reshape a neighborhood, it rewrote a legacy. But the story of Freedmen's Town isn't finished. It's waiting to be remembered, to be restored, and to be retold. Freedmen's Town was never just about buildings. It was about belonging. And while much was taken, the spirit remained. Antioch still stands, a living monument to freedom and faith. Its bell still rings, its doors still open. Emancipation Park has been reborn, renovated, reimagined, but still sacred. Juneteenth lives here. So does joy. Preservationists have fought to save the bricks, one by one. Each restoration is an act of resistance. Each name is remembered as victory. The resemblance lives on in the music, the murals, the movements. Freedmen's Town taught us how to build. Now it teaches us how to remember. Legacy isn't just what we inherit, it's what we choose to protect. You can help. Share the story, support the fight, walk the bricks. Because history isn't just behind us, it's beneath our feet. This was Freedmen's Town, built by the free, threatened by the power, preserved by love.